All right. Thank you guys all for tuning in. My name's Chris Wagner. I'm going to be talking about Power BI Gen 2 tonight. Please leave a message in the chat if you have questions. Post those into the chat. I'll be kind of keeping an eye on that, trying to monitor that. I don't have a lovely assistant here running things for me, so just go ahead, put those into the comments, and I'll be addressing those as we go along. So please, feel free to comment. A little bit of background. My name is Chris Wagner. I run Kratos BI, home of the data gods. Do check it out, kratosbi.com. Try and feature all of the great people working in Power BI and in data in general, so you can know who to follow, who are the great people that you should be out there connected to, learning from, and getting information from. When it comes to Power BI Gen 2, I was very fortunate. I work at Rockwell Automation. I'm their analytics architect lead. A little over a year ago, Microsoft approached me and said, "Hey, we're good partners. We'd like you to kind of take a look at this thing that we're thinking about." And we said, of course we want to take a look at it. This is, very interested in the future of Power BI. One of the big things we've been pushing for a long time was the ability to scale and have more capabilities and faster processing. So, we were 100% down with that. We began looking at Power BI Gen 2. It immediately took some of our heavier workloads that we had. When we started to do deployments on it and we started to run, models on it, we were seeing really great performances. We were seeing refreshes happen faster, more reliable than we were seeing in other places. So we expanded out that use case. We began to move more and more increasingly critical workloads on it because we needed capacity. We just didn't have enough. Eventually, that led to the point where I believe it was November of last year, we began to have very large models running on Power BI Gen 2. And in February of last year, we saw that the risk reward, there's far more reward in migrating to Gen 2 in February of this year and accepting the non-GA status than there was in moving in our living in our existing capacities with our existing refresh issues. So we moved everything over from Gen 1 to Gen 2. We saw that we were getting sometimes 700 to 1,000 refresh failures a day. That number dropped to like 70 to 100. We were super psyched about that. All of our developers, and we have like 1,400 developers, were pumped. They weren't spending time, fighting fires and issues with refreshes. They were going in and just doing business intelligence work. So that was a big boon in and of itself. For the last month or so, we've been testing out the scale capabilities on it. That has been going off like gangbusters. My little auto email I got with that used to get 1,000, we're now down to 100. Kind of flatlined, and in fact, the only alerts I was now getting from the Power BI service was that we were scaling up. All right. So it was, or up or down as necessary. So it was very exciting, but why though? You're probably asking yourself, okay, hey, I'm using Power BI. Why the heck would I want to go to Power BI Gen 2? What's the advantage, right? And so, when we talk about Gen 2 and Power BI, I think you've kind of seen these slides before. Realistically, if you look at a feature by feature comparison, they're basically Power BI Gen 2 brings everything that you have, in Gen 1, except for you bring in a whole bunch of new features. Really, the advantage that we're talking about here is understanding that core of Gen 2 being the enterprise models. And this is a strategical advantage to move away from analysis services and onto Gen 2 to manage your enterprise models, because you're going to find your models refresh faster, they're more reliable, and you now start to get into the infrastructure that allows you to have that scalable compute, allows you to do mixed mode, so you can have cache data, you can have direct query data, you can start to take advantage of some of these new advances when it comes to tuning. It there's a lot of advantages in moving into the Gen 2. Okay. Um, we kind of mentioned this, in my other video. Links will, sure, I'll send the link out below. But the big advantage we have with Gen 2 is not just that we can start to really scale our memory and our usage and having bigger models running on the same processors, on the same services, but now you can fit more and more and more of those models into the same space. So instead of just having to carve up an analysis services amongst your various enterprise models, you can now have larger models running in that one area. And what that does is it allows you to adopt a strategy, and this is true broadly, not just on self-service, but also on or not just on your enterprise models, but also on self-service, where you can start to look at environments where you go from having many P1 instances into having a consolidated P3 environment. Okay, um, uh, and this allows you to manage more, have bigger models running, and run into various performance issues, or you address a lot of various performance issues. Yes, if you do have questions, please do shoot those questions into the chat. I will be getting to those as they start to queue up. I'll take a little break from this me talking, and we'll get to your questions. All right. So first question comes from Anders. How do you know if there is still some space to add a new workspace to a capacity? You only use a capacity metrics app or something else? That's actually a great question. And really, it does come down to using both the capacity metrics app, which is available inside the Power BI service. I'm going to actually switch over to this guy, shrink it down. So very easy for you to install, very easy for you to go in and see what your performance rate is running inside of your Power BI service. And it's really easy for you to detect when you have performance issues, when you have issues crashing, and it allows you to track when you have scale events inside of the metrics app. This will allow you to know if you need to be, allow for more scaling or not. Kind of a big thing and a reason for Gen 2 is that ability to scale. So that is kind of nice to be able to have that functionality added in. I would also recommend configuring and setting up log analytics. This can really help you when it comes to understanding the performance inside of your models. Now, conforming or installing and setting up log analytics is fairly easy. You go out, you create a log analytics workspace, and then you go into your premium capacity. And now this is something you end up having to do for each one, but you go into settings, Azure connections, and you configure your log analytics workspace. Once you have that set up, you can easily get started with the new log analytics performance monitor. This tool allows you to understand anything and everything that's going on inside your workspace, so you can kind of see both sides of what's happening. So both from the logging side of it, as well as from the capacity side. Oh, a bad thing. I created a new window. On me. But where did it go? Oh, here it goes. Between these two different events, you can, or between these two different reports, you can get a lot of information out of the Power BI service, so you can understand where you are capacity wise. Now, I really like this because it's a nice jumping off point to get started with running through and building out your queries that you're going to be building to manage what's going on inside your system. So if you're not familiar with how you manage analysis services or what types of metrics or measures are important for you, this is a great starting off point for you. But this is just a jumping off point. Once you have log analytics configured, you can go into log analytics and you can actually write your own queries against the workspace. Oh, I'm going to click on this wrong. logs. You can write your own KQL queries inside of here. And oh, I don't want to see. Oh, what am I doing? Go away. Go away. There we go. It makes it really easy to go in, run some queries. There's some templated queries that are out there that you can get started with. You can really delve in and see if you have some performance issues or if you have some spike events that are causing problems running inside your nodes. We actually had some performance issues inside of analysis services. We use this to troubleshoot it, but you could do a lot of the same things with your Power BI Gen 2 data sets if you want. So if you want to become more advanced, but realistically speaking, between the capacity metrics app that's out there and between the log analytics performance monitor that's there, you can get a lot done with just these two things out there. Okay, Anders, I hope that answers your question. I am a little bummed out that you can only have one log analytics workspace per, or you can only monitor one capacity, one Power BI workspace per log analytics workspace, but that's not the end of the world. All right. Yes. And then Anders has a follow-up question about identifying bottlenecks and resolving the issues. Now, a lot of that will come down to individual situations which you have. Now that could be incremental refreshes. You can do things to break up your processing. A big thing that we've had a great deal of success with is migrating into data flows. In a lot of cases, what that allows you to do is load that data, individual time, have direct control over that load, and then have your models refresh after that. That can really help when it comes to performance and loads. But realistically, a lot of times when it comes to performance, it's not necessarily always going to be on the load times. Sometimes it's going to be on your cardinality. Sometimes it's going to be on your DAX statements, and really you need to be going through and using these two apps specifically to look for where you have problems. Understanding where which workspaces, which reports are generating poor DAX statements that are hitting your model, which is something that you can get out of the log analytics workspace, really helps you hone in and identify where you have problems. All right. And Donald asks, is there a question for staying with AAS for CPU for heavy usage? I think the only time where you might get an advantage with that is if you're in a situation where you have a small model and you have a P2 and you have a really large number of users. Let's say you have, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000 users, 200,000 users, something like that. And you've set out that scale out capacity inside of analysis services so that you have I think you can have like 8 replications of analysis services out there for the different users to come in and hit. In those types of situations, you might find that there's still a benefit of being on analysis services versus Power BI Gen 2. But in a lot of cases, I honestly, I don't know how many people are in a situation where they're using that type of scale out capabilities, right? Because most people, when they start to scale, it's not needing to scale out, it's needing to scale up because they have more data. But that's entirely possible. All right. I think the only potential would be on the size for using analysis services. Analysis services, if you need the ability to dynamically scale up and down when it comes to memory capabilities, that's something that's much easier to do than it is inside of Gen 2. But that's about the only real reason I can think of. Other than that, it's much better to go with a strategy where you start to consolidate all of your premium instances into a large instance, right? Like in this situation, you could be running. I mean, honestly, this would be 4 P1s with a cap of 25 gigs. this would be a P3 with a cap of 100 gigs of memory. You could really run a large number of models out inside of this service, a large number, like 70 gig models in here. Really, your only challenge there would be potentially managing your refreshes. And I don't know if anyone saw Phil Seamark's blog post. Mims showed it or shared it out earlier today on Twitter. But it's a great option when it comes to performance tuning your loads and finding out where you have load issues. All of that really, though, stems from these log analytics, though. So managing this, understanding what's going on in there. I'm really looking forward to taking Phil's content and either, well, hopefully I don't have to do this. Hopefully he's hard at work on doing this. I understand he might be. But point his report at this log analytics workspace so that you can start to get those benefits. All right. I think I've hit the questions here, so I'm gonna keep talking about some other topics here, so we can kind of get into these things. The other big advantage here is we really want to keep our architecture simple, right? Why have two tools? Why have analysis services and Power BI, right? We all love Power BI. Don't get me wrong. We love Power BI. Why have the two different tools when you can have a singular tool, right? Architectural wise, that makes it simpler to work with, to manage, to operate. Adds a little complexity when you talk about an enterprise model versus like a self-service model. In the past world, we always had enterprise models were running on analysis services, ad hoc, or the self-service was always running in Power BI. Now we're starting to blend those a little bit better, but to me, that just speaks of the power of what I call the grow-up story, or the scalability, or the maturity of the Power BI analytics solution, where you can take that model that you built in Excel, you can grow it up into a Power BI desktop solution. You could then take that out, deploy it out into the service, and then you could scale it into something that you're building out and managing inside the service. All right. Anders, I do see your comments there about the metrics app. I do know that they're hard at work on expanding the capabilities of that, and some stuff that I'm not 100% sure is NDA, but I'm super excited about it, and I'm really looking forward to when that gets announced, hopefully at Ignite next week. So please stay tuned. Remember, Microsoft is great, and the Power BI team excels at going through an agile MVP-based deployment and development strategy where they start with something that's all right. I mean, sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's all right, sometimes it's better, right? And then it matures and grows over time. I mean, Power BI Gen2 is the only service that we've really gotten from Microsoft where day one of GA, we had some sort of management capabilities and analytics around that. So on that front, I am tickled pink that they did that they thought of us admins, that they thought of the need to even troubleshoot or work through that stuff. So I'm super pumped at that. I'm super excited that is something that they're working on and that they're focused on and that they're hearing our feedback. So very, very excited about that as well when it comes to the consumption. All right. And then the other big thing that we add in as that scalability, where we can really start to get additional processors and capacity when it comes to the demand. Now, this scale option that Microsoft has got is good. It is an excellent first step. Again, we had never had any type of option when it came to scalable compute for analysis services. I mean, from SSAS to analysis services to Power BI Gen 1, whatever you bought was what you had. And if you needed to do an upgrade, you had to do even in SSAS, you had to scale up your server, right? So you'd go down, you'd scale up your server, you bring it back up. Analysis services got a little bit better. The scale time was now minutes versus hours and days, but was still something that had to occur. This is something that can happen in real time. You can scale out the number of processors that you have available to you. So I am honestly super excited about that. That's great. I would like to see some more options when it comes to like scaling on memory. That would be another excellent step. But hey, uh, you got to start somewhere, and I'm very excited that they started with processors because, frankly, that makes the most sense as being the thing that is most natural when it comes to cloud-based deployment. All right. Um, uh, and Chewy, uh, you asked how would you know if you needed more than one premium capacity, and that's actually a good question because there's a number of different strategies around this. Um, you can put everything inside of one capacity. You can manage that performance. You can see what's going on inside there. You can give people the ability to scale out, right? Uh, the strategy and the reason why you might want to keep them separate is because you might want to break out the costing of that additional charge for that scale compute. So say you have two different divisions, each has their own profit center and chargeback model where division A and division B have different Azure subscriptions that they want to charge it to. Breaking out in that situation can make a lot of sense so that they automatically get scaled and charged accordingly. Because division A might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy a P3, let it scale up to 32 processors. I don't give a crap. I got budget. I got money. The things run. I want it to run, or if I need it, I want it to run. We'll talk about scaling up to a P4, P5, uh, at quarter or at our monthly review or whatever it is of our services. But if I need this, if it's going on in my system, I need my stuff to process. So go ahead and scale it. All right. And then you might have another department that says, hey, we understand that some scaling is fine, but we never really want to scale more than one or two processors or a quarter of our percent, because we understand that if we're running in a always scaled out state at two processors, basically, or at 25%, it means you should just upgrade. All right. Understanding those different cost points and when you should be doing these upgrades is important when it comes out to how you divvy up your different premium capacities. And with that being at a 25% scale up, that's not super high, right? I mean, it's kind of understandable, right? Like it's kind of in alignment with how cloud compute goes. You want on-demand compute, it's going to be much more expensive, or it's going to be typically more expensive than the reserved capacities. Um, I'd kind of like to see it be broke out in smaller chunks than 24 hours, but hey, again, baby steps, right? Um, uh, you know, there is also a case for potentially breaking out when it comes to your functionality. You bring up a good point when it comes to your reports and stuff. Um, Having your reports in one capacity and having your data sets and your refreshes in another is actually, you know what? That's a brilliant idea. One of the big differences when it comes to Power BI Gen 2 is Power BI Gen 2 prioritizes the processing of the models, processing of anything that's going on the engine versus the front end user reports, right? They found in Gen 1 that users were coming in, they just like click on something and break up and processes that had been running for like 20, 30 minutes would get hoteled off, and then a user would click on one thing and do nothing, right? And then that process would have to come all the way back into memory. Well, a lot of sources that feed in on to Power BI into BI don't handle that well. Then queries would restart, and it would you'd end up with failures, right? So one of the this is good, and it's something to just be aware of is in Gen 2 prioritized the processing of the model, figuring that most of the time a processor will free up faster of things finishing in the model when they finish so much faster to give that user an interactivity, right? So in situations, I'm sure if you're coming in during a full-on load, a user could have a bad experience. But if we all start to implement the Chewy method, and I'm going to call it the Chewy method, um, if we use the Chewy method of having our reports, that our skinny reports in one capacity, and all of our skinny reports in one capacity, our data flows in one, our pagina reports in another, and then our big model for processing our cubes. Actually, you know what? It would just be pagina reports and interactive reports in a module, and then I would probably put data flows and processing cubes all in one capacity. That would keep it all together logically and give you the best control. Oh, that's freaking brilliant, Chewy. I just love that. That's 100%. You've heard it here, folks. The recommended method for doing this is the Chewy strategy. Follow him on Twitter. He has fantastic ideas. That is just brilliant. All right. Um, uh, so that's fantastic. Yeah, so that's a great way to balance that out and also manage your utilization and usage. Um, this also brings up a great point, and Anders, thank you so much for hitting on one of my next slides here. Is now we talk about. Oh, did I cut the slide? No, I didn't. Premium per user. The big thing that we save, especially when we talk about our analytics modeling and engineers who are working at SSAS or analysis services, you always had to have those servers and services running in your dev and QA environments. And sometimes you had to have multiples of them. If you were doing like full regression testing in QA and you had multiple teams working on a model, you might have to spin up two or three of these models in a lower environment. And I know that, people say, oh, it's dev and QA. You can turn that off when it's not in use. Well, okay. I don't know about you, but my dev and QA teams and users who might be coming in to validate or test stuff out nearly run 24/7. I mean, I've built out a highly functioning DevOps process that manages, watches for users. When no users are in, it turns the stuff out. But really, we were only gaining like maybe 4 to 6 hours a day. Sometimes, if we were lucky, on turning down those lower environments. Honestly, it's just fantastically expensive to do that development. Um, Enter PPU, premium per user, now allows you to go in as an analytics engineer, build out and manage your models in your lower environment, do your builds, do your load tests, do your performance monitoring and testing. And Honestly, this has made this ecosystem with premium per user and Gen2, it's now an analytics engineer's dream environment to work in. You throw in Tabular Editor 3 and forget about it. This is just fantastic. You can build out your enterprise models. You can deploy those into your lower environments. You can set up your refreshes in DevOps. You can do all of that. You can get your users in, accessing, testing it out. Now, one challenge here is your users have to have those premium per user licenses. I mean, the quality users, right? The users who are coming in and doing sign off. But that's typically not that big of a deal, right? When you talk about going from on an enterprise like build out environment, you could easily have a $10,000 to $20,000 a month, or far much more bill every single month for your lower environments. Having like 5 developers with the $20 a month license, okay, that takes you to $100. Maybe you have 10, 10, oh, heck, let's get crazy. Let's say you have 20 users who have premium per user to do sign-offs on, and you're still sitting at like $500 a month in your premium per user for them to be doing the lower environment testing. And frankly, forget about it. I mean, that's nothing in comparison to running analysis services in lower environments in development. All right, so super easy. Now, some notes about this. Right now, you can't set up service principals with premium per user. Kind of some limitations on licensing, but you can 100% build out a user, right? Like I created the Power BI Luchador is my service account that I've got set up. The Power BI Luchador runs all my models, does all my processing. So I just have to run with 2 Power BI premium per user licenses to manage my little environment that I test out and play with, right? So it is it's super easy. You kind of get these things set up and working. I mean, there were some initial uh in June of this year, there were some challenges around that. Big shout out to Venkatesh and Christian Wade for your help with that. You guys helped us work through some bugs. There's some issues, and that was way before GA though, right? Like, you know, you know, I ran that gauntlet. We ran that gauntlet through a lot of this stuff, sorted those things out, and uh, got that kind of figured out for you guys. So you're not going to have the problems that we had um, back then. It's now relatively straightforward. You can easily get through this. I mean, the help desk might have some questions and not be able to help you right away with it because they get a little confused around that stuff. But that's all help desks, right? So frankly, it's relatively easy. You can get it set up. It's really not a problem. All right. Um, and then kind of the other side of this is uh, if you're new and you're not following along with all of this stuff and you're wondering like why else is this important, and really it's because of the Power BI Gen 2. And how can you do this? How can you turn Power BI into an enterprise solution? It's through the XMLA endpoints. Okay, now it's kind of important when you set this all up and you go into your Power BI service, you go over to your admin portal, and I already have it up. You go into your capacity under your no, not that. Oh yeah, we'll get to XML in a second. Do look in and check at these new notifications that you have around utilization and issues. These notifications are great when it comes to notifying you when you have scale issues. Anders, you were wondering how do you know when you're hitting caps and stuff like that? Right here, you start to get these emails, and they all come from the same service account, so you can like totally auto funnel those off into like an email address. But you can use this to help you monitor and manage and know when you're gonna have issues. Big deal here though is the XMLA endpoints. Make sure that you turn on the read write endpoints here. This is where you have all of your big wins and hits. This is where it starts. All right. Oh hey Anudeep, shout out. Anudeep is the man. All y'all, if you guys get set up with running through and configuring all of this, Anudeep, who's in the chat here, he's the guy who worked through all of those tickets. I didn't work through that. Anudeep is the one who like got that all set up and working. So Anudeep, thank you for working through that. I really appreciate it. But you turn on your XMLA read write endpoints, and like once you have this set up, you determine what workspace you want your data sets to go into. And now I have a data set. Oh, I have my data flows and data sets workspace. Once this is on, I make sure that this is in my premium capacity, right? And then I go to settings and I go to premium and I get my workspace connection right here, okay? I grab this guy, right? Because I'm thinking, I know I want to deploy a model out here and I want to start managing it like a boss, right? So I go out to my Power BI data set. I say, okay, hey, I want to start really managing this thing. I don't want to deploy it out there. I want to separate it from my PBX file. I launch this up. I open up my external tools. I make sure that my tabular editor is up and running. Oh, while I'm doing this, a quick plug for Report Analyzer. I'm gonna paste this in just a second. But if you're not using Report Analyzer, you 100% should be. This is insanely awesome when it comes to understanding where you have good or bad performing reports. It's crazy good. I'll have to do a video on this some other time. It's fantastic. But I go to external tools. I click on tabular editor. It opens on a completely different screen. That's all right. So I've got it. I'm connected to my model. I go to where's it? Model. I go to deployment. Again, on a different screen. Now, this one remembers that where I like to deploy to, but all I have to do is click on next, and now I'm gonna sign in. You'd paste in that workspace in here if you wanted, right? And I give this guy a name, right? Like this is my live stream model. Next. Deploy. Happen. Oh yeah, deploy. There we go. Like this is it. So I've now hit deploy. It's deploying. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, now you're making me look bad. Now you're... Oh, and it's done. So I should now be able to go out to the Power BI service. I go right out here and oh, there it is. My live stream model is already set up out here. Now I can start to build out reports. I can configure my settings. I can make sure that my gateway is set up. Yeah, I can make sure that's connected on my my enterprise gateway, apply it, set my gateway connections, schedule a refresh, keep it up to date, central time, right? Because I like to live like that. And now I'm ready to go, right? So now I have a data model that's out here, a live stream model. Now, if I go and see all, I can see which models I deployed using your old school deployment method of having a report that you deployed out with, and then which ones I deployed using my live stream method. Boom shakalaka. All right. Honestly, a tabular editor, you throw this puppy in and use this, it just makes your ability to manage models and work with this stuff so simple. All right. You can also work with models out in the service, but we'll leave that for another time. I will put a link to this guy into the chat because people aren't. I don't know if people use this or not. Some tips with this, okay? So what Report Analyzer does, what this does, oh, that was, all my screens go. Never, ever, ever wave your hand, wave your stuff. That creates all sorts of what Report Analyzer does is it will evaluate all of the all everything that's going on inside your tool or inside a Power BI report and show you where you have the worst performing items. Now, simple way to, what you have to do though, there's kind of a trick. I think this would be a bad one to do a demo on. This one might be better. But the thing you need to do is you have to turn on the on your view, you have to turn on the performance analyzer, right? You have to start your recording. And then yeah, you have to go and refresh visuals. So I don't remember if this refreshes from the back end. We'll open up another thing to give this a plug because it's important. All right. Here, this guy. This guy will work. All right. So and this is even better because I'm not connected to a live model, right? Like this does not exist, right? So I'm going to file and I'm going to save this into a place. I'm going to call it my performance analyzer folder. Right, and inside here, I'm going to create a new folder because you want to have the PBIX file and the log files in the same folder. That's really important. So, scatter plot. Save. And then I turn on my view performance analyzer. I start recording or refresh my visuals, right? And then I export it into the same place. So into my performance analyzer scatter plot, save. Go to external tools, launch report analyzer. And then I go over to, and I browse to that location that I had. Oh, no, there it is. Documents. Sorry. This blend. PRIORITIZATION BI. Come on. PRIORITIZATION BI. Power BI reports. Performance analyzer. Scatterplot. Okay. Click on browse. Now, look at this. Now it shows me all of and it even caught my hidden tabs, and it has all of the DAX statements used, the measures used, and the timing on it. So I can find and this one works good. So I apologize. This one functions well. But any visuals that don't return at a fast rate, this thing will light up and it'll show you the visuals that perform poorly. So you can actually, yeah, I don't have anything that is above a second. Stupid tune model. This makes it really easy for you to like set a threshold. And honestly, like sometimes you're like, okay, I've got way too many things in this level. Let me go up to like the 20-second thing, and then let me step through and understand where I have my worst performing visuals. This is a lifesaver when it comes to working in Power BI. All right. Or when it comes to like how do I troubleshoot and resolve an issue? This just Michael Kowalski. I don't know if you're watching on a repeat or if you're in the chat here, but dear gosh, this is fantastic. But okay, this is way off topic, so I apologize. Back to Gen 2. Because well, frankly, whoopsie, sorry. You could use pipelines. Honestly, I think we covered all of the big things that I really want to talk about, especially the report access. I mean, this was a big red thing. I had, okay, hey, this is something we have to be worried about. But now we have the Chewy method, the Chewy protocol. We just use the Chewy protocol to break out our reports, and we're ready to go here. So this is quite excellent. I'm very excited about this. Really, if you do have questions, I'll put them into the chat. Because honestly, I've been working with Gen 2 for 14 months. I absolutely love it. I've seen the power of it. I've seen the impact that it can make on an organization. So happy to answer any questions that people have when it comes to how you use it, how you work with it, that type of thing. So let's see what else we have here. Do note that if this is if you're working on this guy, come up with a strategy for how you move all of your models out into Gen 2, right? Like there's a handful of reasons to stay in SSAS or analysis services. They're exceedingly small, exceedingly rare. Only on an exception basis would I really even consider using this for any analytical model that I have inside a platform. And the criteria would have to be, gosh, like I guess that truly scale, that crazy scale out scenario that we talked about before. Um, I think there's still language translations that's missing. I think that's the other niche situation. I don't know what the telemetry is around language translations, but it can't be terribly high. But please do take a look at that. And while we look at some of the things that are in the log analytics, and while there's room for improvement here, and there's room for growth, and there's room for improvement inside of the capacity metrics app. Right, there's room for improvement inside of here. The reality is a lot of the functionality and features that they're rolling out in the direction that they're heading in is going to make these things moot. So I for one am excited to see that it's even possible to generate a lot of these metrics and a lot of these visuals to show how this is working and functioning, because I think this is just going to make these resources that much easier for people to consume, right? And I mean, if we go out to PRIORITIZATION BI, I quick threw out. Oh, come on! Why is my site doing that? But building out an embedded experience is relatively easy. You're set to go, right? Greg, question: if I could publish a paginated reports, that means I have Gen 2, right? No, actually, that just means you have premium, or you have premium per user. Premium has allowed for paginated reports. Well, since paginated reports were released, you had to have a premium in one form or another. Please do take a look at that stuff. I mean, honestly, getting your your Power BI reports up and working with both your cache memory and direct queries back to your Synapse or SQL Server or Snowflake or whatever it happens to be is going to be one of the best ways for you to manage the memory inside your solution. And building out these paginated reports is really important. Okay, now paginated reports are a very different animal than analysis services. Okay, analysis services is designed for that draggy droppy clicky type stuff, right? And here, so where's my analysis services is designed for this type of interaction, right? Where I can click on stuff, it all just bounces around, and in an aggregate, it allows me to hone in and find, individuals or, people to go in and look at, right? So analysis services is great at that aggregate about being able to quickly and rapidly navigate around an experience. That's what analysis services is good for. Anytime you want that detailed grid, though, you're going to find that analysis services, just frankly, because it's computing stuff on the fly all of the time, it can really have some kind of challenges there. Okay. So if you're looking at static reports like, hey, I need order details, and all of that information is, as Matthew Roach said, calculated far upstream, right? And you're just visualizing it. That's when it's really important to bring that into a paginated report. And the big key with that paginated report, though, is not that the paginated report hits analysis services, because the paginated report hitting analysis services is still going to have that exact same problem of Power BI bringing stuff out, right? It doesn't matter Gen 1, Gen 2. It's a huge load on processing for it to be able to take all of that detailed information out of that compressed memory, bring it out, so they take it, it's all in compressed memory. But first has to uncompress it, then it has to filter down into what you're looking. I don't remember the order. Typically, they'll filter down and then uncompress, but Either way, that's uncompress it all and then render it all for you on the front end. So there's this like, there's a lot of compute and processing that goes along with it. The advantage of paginated reports or mixed mode queries for that matter is that you can take a query and you can hit that backend system directly without having to have that memory or that memory consumed or your model really hit when it comes to the performance, right? So you can take, when you build out your paginated report that I have here, right? This is just a paginated report that's embedded inside my Power BI desktop, my Power BI report, right? That can go ahead and it can hit your backend system. Okay. Is it going to take a little while? Yeah. Um, but now you get the ability to tune that backend system to already have done all your joins, to pre-aggregate all the values that you want to have to come out of it, so that your report can really kind of hum and scream when it comes back. That's when you start to move away from the tabular model into the one big table framework. And I know that is heresy. When we talk Power BI, we only talk the star schema. Well, when we talk paginated reports, now we start to talk about other options when it comes to our storage, right? And especially when we're talking details, and we want these reports to come back really quick for users, that's when we can start to look at how we start to move away from that one big table, or I'm sorry, that star schema or galaxy schema, and into a one big table. I'm going to leave that as a plug for my Data God model series that I'm working on recording right now. So please, if you have not already, like and subscribe to the channel. Let your friends know, hey, this is a live stream you should rewatch. It's really, hopefully I'm somewhat entertaining. But do check it out. Come back. And do check out my Data God model series I'm about to publish. I'm going to go into some real details about how you you take your data modeling up to 11. So, not only are you doing, your star schemas, but you're starting to leverage a whole bunch of other different data access patterns when it comes to inside of the Azure framework, and for a number of different reasons as well. Okay. Um, uh, Greg has a question about, can you build paginated reports directly against Databricks? That is a fantastic question, Greg. And the answer, I think prior to June, would have been no. But in June, Databricks, maybe it was May, June, somewhere's in there. May, June, somewhere's in that time frame. Databricks released what I think they call it. Not sure if it's Data Lakehouse or their new Databricks data warehousing model that allows for an ODBC connector to be created. I think you might end up having to create a gateway to allow for you to connect to that with an ODBC connector, but I was reading that it's now there. I was specifically looking for that so that I could understand when we could look at that type of an architectural pattern, because one of the big things we'd want to be able to do is have that ability to have a degree of scale in our compute. That is something that you could do once we get Databricks or a scale solution in place, right? Um, uh, so that is something that is out there. Please do check that out. Honestly, the more we can do when it comes to adding in scale compute inside of our solutions, frankly, the better. This is something that is I am frankly super excited about, is that combination of that highly aggregated dynamic information as well as that drill through detail stuff. All right. Do check that out. Right. Let's see. Carlos, I hope that answered your question about paginated reports being heavy on CPU utilization. There is, uh, There's a lot when it comes to paginated reports, but realistically, my gosh, the name of Paul, the guy who was on Guy in the Cube on Saturday. Oh my gosh, I'm dropping his name, Paul. Well, all right, he wrote a ton of books on, and I apologize. He wrote a ton of books on like paginated reports and how you optimize your backend data sets for that. Go check out the live stream from Guy in the Cube on Saturday. Paul Turley. There we go. Oh my gosh. Senior moment. I'm older than I look. Check out Paul Turley's stuff. He honestly, he has a fantastic series of doing BI the right way. Frankly, uh, that's always been my credo when it comes to like enterprise analytics and management, was like, how do we do this right? Like, how do we do things so that they scale, so that they perform, that I don't care if I'm going out to 10 users or 10,000 users. I want to have a pattern that allows us to run and work. So yeah, do check out Paul Turley's stuff. He has a whole series on doing business intelligence right. Frankly, a lot of his stuff, especially the stuff that he wrote 10 years ago around paginated reports, around SSRS, it now all still applies to paginated reports. So go back, check that out. I mean, what's old is new again. And I mean, really in technology, that is super true. We're dealing with common issues. The issues and needs we had 20, 30 years ago still persist to this day. They're just somewhat in a different form, right? There's still a need for detail level reporting where people want to drill in, understand like what are the items on that order? What caused this stuff? Show me the details, right? But you want to do that through an analytics experience that creates an environment that allows people to hone in and filter in on outliers and help them identify like who are the people that you should really be honing in on. All right. Now, we're about reaching the end of the hour. Thank you guys all so very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Guys are frankly the best. Thank you very, very much. Maybe I'm going over. Honestly, I had a like countdown clock for like leading in, but I'm probably a little bit over. But thank you guys very much for joining us. Yeah. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, send this out to your friends, family. If you haven't upgraded to Gen 2, upgrade to Gen 2. It's a flip of a button. You'll be updated in the back end. You won't even know it. You're not going to regret it. I honestly, I don't think there's any features that are missing. I don't think there's any downside. Upgrade to Gen 2. Create a strategy to migrate your enterprise models out there. Move off of SSAS. Move off of AAS. Get on Gen 2. Frankly, we had an old AAS or SSAS model. All we did was move it out to Gen 2, upgrade it to 1500 service level, and like we were seeing 500 to 1000% increase in performance for some people. Results may vary. Take that with a grain of salt. But thank you guys also very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Peace.